Okay, so I'm Beck Lane, and this is Studio 120. And behind me is a painting I've been working on for several months. But before we delve into everything, I think I'd like to introduce a new idea. We're going to call it the Max Minute or the Maxwell Minute. Max is my grandson. And as you probably saw in my last video, I was singing to him. I couldn't get it up on Instagram. I couldn't send it through a private message, so I posted it on YouTube. And as his mama said, now he can watch it, or his papa, I can't remember which, said now he can watch it whenever he wants. So we're going to take a Maxwell minute. We're going to say hi to Max and remind him, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, Max, how much I love you. Please don't take my Maxwell away. Mwah. And now I'd like to get into the painting. Now that I've made an attempt at singing to my grandson online, I'm going to go back to the painting. This young woman has been out in the garage where I worked her, reworked her, introduced colors, had to figure and reconfigure her, and then finally I pulled her out and I put her in here in my sunroom, where I've been painting now for several months since Bugsy died. Bugsy died 6 months ago, so I started painting out here about 5 months ago, I think. So I pulled her out here with my other paintings, and I'm seeing her with fresh eyes. So over the last few days, I've been able to kind of reconstruct her dress, reposition her a little bit, add a little bit of color to her face. I don't want to add too much. I'm now working on the backgrounds and the lower part of her dress and all the creases, which I love. I love white cotton, and I love painting creases. Now, I was thinking about her because I was thinking about a talk, rather, I gave this week to a college class in Rhode Island. And I was asked to address race and representation, and I thought, why is anyone asking me, this 57-year-old white lady who is currently living in the whitest state in the world, Florida, as far as I can see, except for segregated areas. It's pretty bizarre. But so why is somebody asking Florida, that is? So why is anybody asking me? And there are a multitude of reasons, and I'll give you one. One is because I don't use brown. I don't use a lot of browns in my or peaches or pinks. I don't use traditional skin tone in any of my portraits. I don't say I am painting a white person. I will paint pinks and peaches. I am painting a brown person. I will use browns and oranges, and I don't follow skin tone. I find it deeply uninteresting. I find it incredibly boring, slightly lazy, but also the reason, one of my biggest reasons is this is not my place. I feel very strongly about this, and I didn't address it with the class, but this was what I was trying to convey. I don't feel it is my place to address which color brown that person that I am painting a portrait of should be. I feel it's disrespectful for me to apply a certain brown, as in, I don't know, it just feels, it's like I'm staking a claim. I know how this skin tone feels. I don't know how it feels to live in that skin tone. And I don't want to, address anyone's skin tone disrespectfully, but especially underrepresented communities, people that are underrepresented in museums and galleries, people whose images are underrepresented or not shown. I mean, we know the Guerrilla Girls, the artist activist group, the Guerrilla Girls, they've been around for what, 40 years? We know all these artist activists who just keep pushing and pushing and pushing for more representation of women, but also of communities of color and of all different races. And, you know, here we are 40 years later, and the needle hasn't really moved at all, even though they're addressing it directly in front of MoMAs, Guggenheims, like all these large museums around the world. And now, because they're the Guerrilla Girls and they're big, they're addressing the issues within the galleries. They're in the galleries, they're having shows, or in the museums and they're having shows, and they still can't manage to move the needle. So, you know, I was like, why would anyone invite this to talk about race and underrepresentation? And it turned out to be one of the most interesting discussions I've been involved in a very, very, very long time. A very, very long time. So I spoke a little bit, but it was mainly us going back and forth. And what was really beautiful was it was a mixed race class. And one of the gentlemen, we have mutual friends, and he's of African American descent. We had several women from whose heritage is Latino, Latinx. It was just really, really interesting because I get a little fired up when I'm asked about skin tone. And, you know, I'm trying to find the right words. I want to find the words so that what I'm trying to convey doesn't feel like I'm patronizing, because I feel very strongly about this. It is not my place in the world to decide what color brown is going to be the right color brown for her. So what I do is I remove race from the conversation because I don't feel it's appropriate for me to respond to, you know, the expectation of brown. I don't feel that's appropriate. What I try to do is remove race, obvious race in color, through color, in my portraits. Remove it from the conversation so the viewer is having a whole nother conversation. That's what I want, is the deeper feeling. What is that girl projecting? What is she thinking? What is her stance? Who is she? What is her story? I want to feel her. And I think that's what people connect with in my work, is how do we feel the people? How do we feel the people that I'm portraying? So behind me we have another one, which is right now a little bit of a hot mess. I have my married couple. I've reshaped him. I mean, switching gears, I've reshaped him. I shaved a good 35 pounds off of the poor guy. Now I feel like I've got to buff him out just a little bit. We're still shaping and reshaping. Then I have another painting over here that I cannot show you because it's a surprise. And it's a surprise gift. And I have struggled with this. So I can't wait to show you when it's finished. But holy shamoly, trying to paint in a hand or most of a hand and an arm that isn't even in the reference material, but I need. Trying to find, trying to reconstruct it so one character's head isn't off the canvas, just like my poor married couple, just like this poor girl was. We all run through the same stages of, holy crap, can I please get can I please be smart enough to get a wrangle on this? But we're working on it. Anyway, I'm a little babbly. I was very, very sick with RSD yesterday, but I wanted to get out a little video and say howdy doody, sing to Maxwell, and mention something else. One last thing before I babble my way into the shower. On Facebook, if you go to my Facebook page, Beck Lane, the emoji is the Black Power Fist, and it says Celebrate Black History Month. And if you click on that icon, if you click on that profile pic of the fist, below it in the comment section, every day I've been listing 1 to 3 Black, brown, or African American artists, or people in the art world, people that have affected American culture deeply. through their art, even though at the time they really struggled, or even now really struggle to be heard. But if you're interested in learning about sculptors, photographers, painters, actually I've got a art curator and author that I wrote about this morning on what's today, February 7th. Her name is Kimberly Drew. Her online handle is Museum Mammy. Museum Mammy. She is the assistant director, I believe, to MoMA's social media stuff. She handles their social media stuff. So she's on Instagram, not really on Facebook. She had a blog on Tumblr, I believe it's still there. She talks about Black, brown, and African American artists, underrepresented artists. She's brilliant. She's super balls to the wall. She's an author. She wrote an author about, oh crap, it just went out of my head. She's written 2 books. Never mind. I'll put the links in. I'll put the links down below, but she has a podcast, a kind of a podcast she's doing on Instagram called Black Power Lunch. Black Power Lunch. It's really interesting, really just kind of raw, deep, honest discussions about just being an artist. Black and brown artists, of course, experience things on a different level than I would, but there is so much that we share that it's affirming, it's validating. And then to hear things from their point of view, how difficult it is to juggle and to get work in, to get seen. It's just been really, really interesting. And this morning I listened to her interview with Maurice Harris. Maurice Harris. He owns a flower shop and a coffee shop out in LA, and I'll have the links down down below. It's Bloom and Plume in LA. He's just so talented and so interesting. He talked about his education, how he wanted to be an artist, but how he went in another direction to bring in the dough. But he said something this morning that got me. Nothing spreads like a toxic idea except a courageous idea. Nothing spreads like a toxic idea except a courageous idea. And that ties into something we've been talking a lot about lately. The idea I had, the crazy idea I had about a WPA-like system for artists where we are paid to produce work, affect our communities, affect culture. And when I first mentioned it, I thought, God, you sound like a lunatic. It's so far-fetched and so bizarre. Like, people are just going to think you're crazy. Well, as it turns out, there's a lot of people who share this idea. There's a lot of people who have had this idea. I was listening to an interview on Boston Public Radio, and the director of the Huntington Theater in Boston, the Huntington Theater in Boston, where I have seen theater, I used to go to all the time when I lived in Boston, he was suggesting the exact same thing. So I tweeted to him and Maurice, Michael Mirso? Oh, so sorry, I've forgotten his name, but again, was sick all day yesterday. Anyway, Huntington Theater in Boston, he said that thought. There are several organizations I found who have been trying for years to get a WPA-like system together, but as I said, right now I think is the perfect time to start saying to the government, to start saying to this White House, why can't we? One program back during the 30s and 40s, there was one program, actually it was under the Farmer Security Administration, something like that. Farmer Security Administration, I believe, they had another WPA program. While the WPA program was going on, they had another one, and they paid photographers to go out and capture life. capture life. This was during the Great Migration, 1935 to 1945, 46, something like that. Anyway, people, when blacks, browns, African Americans were moving out of the deep, dark Jim Crow South, where they were being lynched every day. We were losing hundreds of citizens a year to Ku Klux Klan and white organizations and racists. People started moving up north for better opportunities and for actual, possibility of freedom, moving to cities like Chicago. So under this farmers, I don't know how it worked, but under this farmers bill or whatever it was, there was a program set up where 2 photographers, and again, their names are gone from my head, were sent out to photograph the migration. And they photographed people working in the cotton fields, working in different fields, people on the migration, traveling alone, which was so dangerous. You could get killed for trying to use a bathroom. We know that. It's not a secret. So families and individuals trying to arrive safely up north to Chicago, New York, etc. So these photographers went out and they recorded these people's lives and their stories through visuals. So it's not an impossibility. It just needs to be implemented. So that's the end of my big fat talk today. Max, I love you so much. Grammy loves you. And thank you to everybody who supports Studio 120. If you'd like to help support Studio 120, like the video, subscribe, but then there are links down below on ways that you can help financially support through Patreon, through Cash App, PayPal, through buying prints of my work on as prints or on mugs or t-shirts on TeePublic and a myriad of other ways. All right, thank you. Ready, Carrie? Here we go. Carrie in Australia. Here we go. Meow, 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 boink.